Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Podcast. We're all about rugby here, so if you love the game as much as we do, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our deep dives.
That's right, we go beyond just the scores and the headlines.
Exactly. And today, we are going to unpack some pretty big news in the world of rugby. Handre Pollard. You know, the Springboks fly half, the two-time World Cup winner.
Oh yeah, the guy who's been lighting it up over in England with the Leicester Tigers.
Yeah, that's the one. Well, get this, he's decided he's heading back home, back to South Africa, to rejoin the Bulls.
Wow, that's huge. A lot of people probably didn't see that coming. So what's the story? Why is he making the move?
Well, that's what we're going to dig into.
Yeah.
Pollard has been pretty open about his reasons, and they actually tell us a lot about how the landscape of professional rugby is shifting. This isn't just a player going back to his old stomping grounds. There's more to it than that.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So let's back up a bit. Pollard started his pro career with the Bulls back in 2013.
Right, back when they were a major force in the Super Rugby.
Exactly. He really made a name for himself there. Then in 2019, he headed over to France to play for Montpellier.
And then after that, he landed at Leicester Tigers, one of the biggest clubs in England.
Yep. And he's had some incredible success abroad, playing a key role in South Africa, winning those back-to-back World Cups, first in 2019 while he was with Montpellier.
And then again in 2023 after he'd moved to Leicester.
Unbelievable achievement.
Yeah, truly remarkable. You can't forget those moments, especially that final against New Zealand in 2023, where Pollard slotted every single point for South Africa in their 12-11 victory.
I still get chills thinking about it. Talk about nerves of steel. But here's the thing. Even with all the success he's had overseas, Pollard's made it clear that the pull of home is strong. And now, with some recent changes in how the game is structured, returning to South Africa and playing for the Bulls has become a really appealing option for him.
So what are these changes that have made this move possible?
The biggest one is the inclusion of South African teams in European competitions. It's a game changer. Pollard himself said that earlier in his career, he never thought it would be possible to return to South Africa and still play at the top level in Europe. But things have shifted.
Okay, so walk me through how this all works now.
Right, so we've got the United Rugby Championship, or the URC for short.
Right, the URC. It includes teams from Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Italy.
And now South Africa.
Ah, and that's the key, right?
Exactly. So you've got these South African teams like the Bulls, the Sharks, the Stormers, now competing in the URC. But here's the kicker. The top teams from the URC qualify for the European Champions Cup and the European Challenge Cup.
Okay, now I see where this is going.
So Pollard can come back to South Africa, play for the Bulls in the URC, and if they do well,
They can compete against the best clubs in Europe.
precisely. It's a whole new ballgame.
Yeah.
He actually said being able to play in the Champions Cup whilst being in South Africa was something I'd never seen in my early career, but the opportunity is there now.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, why wouldn't he take that chance? He gets to stay at the top of the game, compete for the most prestigious titles.
And be at home in South Africa.
It's a win-win.
It really is.
Yeah.
But it's not just about the competition. Pollard also talked about wanting to be closer to his family.
Yeah, can't underestimate that. Being a professional rugby player means a lot of travel, a lot of time away from loved ones.
Absolutely. So being based in South Africa allows him to have more of that balance.
And of course, let's not forget the emotional side of things. He's going back to the team where it all started for him, the Bulls. That's got to be a special feeling.
Oh, yeah. There's something about returning to your roots.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the Bulls fans are going to be absolutely ecstatic to have him back.
Mm.
Now, before we get too caught up in all the excitement of his return, we have to acknowledge what Pollard achieved during his time abroad.
Oh, absolutely. 2 World Cup titles, playing for top clubs in France and England. He's made a massive impact.
And speaking of impact, he joined Leicester Tigers in 2023, right after they'd won the Premiership title.
Right, so there was already a winning culture in place.
And they continued to do well. They reached the semifinals in his first season there.
Not quite another title, but still a very strong showing.
And this season, even though he's announced he's leaving, Leicester is in a good position to challenge for both the Premiership title and the European Champions Cup.
Talk about leaving on a high note.
I know, right? They've got a big match coming up against Glasgow Warriors in the Champions Cup round of 16. It's going to be an epic battle.
For sure. And you can bet Pollard will be giving it his all for Leicester right until the very end.
Oh, yeah, he said it himself. He's fully committed to the team and wants to help them achieve their goals this season.
That's the mark of a true professional. Now, thinking about this move, it's not just about Pollard and the Bulls, right?
Nope, it's much bigger than that. This whole situation really highlights how much the world of rugby is changing.
In what way?
Well, the fact that South African teams are now part of the European competitions, it creates so many more opportunities for players. They can stay closer to home, play in familiar surroundings.
And still compete at the highest level internationally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see more and more South African players taking advantage of this. It's going to make the competition even fiercer. If you're enjoying all of these rugby insights and analysis, don't forget to subscribe to the Rugby Obsession podcast.
It's definitely shaken things up, no doubt about it. Pollard's decision is a sign of the times.
And it goes to show that even for players at the very top, personal factors like family and a sense of belonging can be just as important as professional ambition. So what do you think? Is this the start of a new era in South African rugby?
That's the question, isn't it?
We want to hear from you, our listeners. Head over to our social media or leave us a comment and tell us your thoughts on Pollard's move and what it means for the future of the game. This is a conversation we definitely need to have.
Definitely. We need to discuss.
And that's a wrap for this deep dive on the Rugby Obsession podcast. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you hit that subscribe button.
So you don't miss our next episode, where we break down even more rugby action.
Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession podcast, and we will look forward to you listening to our next episode.